Thank you again to those of you who have turned up live to this session, and also thank you for your interest to those who are watching the replay later on. And also thank you to Peter and to Emily for all the work they do behind the scenes to make this possible. So, as some of you know, my name is Kat Smit, and I'm a former counselling psychologist turned holistic health coach. So welcome to this CCI and TICNA community chat, which is the second of the year, on the topic of how do you start a new habit? So any habit, like stopping scrolling on social media or watching Netflix right before bedtime, like starting a habit of getting up and doing some gentle movement in the morning if that's in your capacity at the moment, like drinking more water during the day. So the first thing to consider is that focusing on creating what you do want to do in a particular time period in your day is actually more successful than focusing on stopping a behavior. So instead of having the goal to stop the behavior of scrolling on social media before bedtime, what is it that you want to do before bed? And then you focus on that. So secondly, you need to explore your vision of why you want to create that new behavior. So why is it important to you? So taking the time to explore the why usually uncovers your values, what's really important to you, and a deeper sense of purpose. And following the principles of acceptance and commitment therapy, and some of you know that I find that a really helpful model, working towards goals that are in alignment with your values is going to be more powerful and also more sustainable. Values are your heart's deepest desires of how you want to behave, the qualities you want to embody in your ongoing actions. Also, how you want to treat anyone or anything that you interact with, and that includes yourself. So, for example, treating yourself and others with the value of self-care, kindness, or friendliness. Or it might be that being adventurous and creative, open and fun-loving is important to you. So I do actually have handouts that help you to explore your values if you'd like to get more help to get that clearer for yourself, what your particular visions are and what's important to you. So now I'm going to invite you into an exercise I do with some of my clients when we're exploring their vision about why they want to start a new habit. And for those of you who've been on the previous talks, I like to do this experiential exercise as part of this talks so you can get a feeling of what I'm talking about. So you're welcome to join in following my instructions, or if you don't want to, that's fine too, and just sit there and relax. And also, if you'd like to write down anything you discover from this exercise, now would be the time to grab a pen and paper to write that down. So I'll just give you just a few moments if you've got one near to hand, if you think you might want to do that. Okay, so you can gently close your eyes for this exercise if it feels comfortable, or just softly gaze at a point to the side of your screen. So just arriving in your body, feel your feet on the floor, or if you're lying or reclining, feeling that connection to the surface that you're resting on. Feeling yourself in your seat, and just gently straighten your spine a little, and we're going to check in with our bodies. So just checking in first with your head, shoulders, just checking for any unnecessary tension, arms, hands, checking your chest, abdomen, hips, legs, and feet. Just noticing any unnecessary tension and just observing that and letting it change by itself if it wants to change, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. Now we're going to turn our attention to our breathing. So just noticing your breathing. And now we're just going to do an out breath together. And now breathe in deeply from your lower belly, then your side ribs, then top of your chest. And then I'd like you to breathe out slowly with sound as if you're fogging a window. Now we'll repeat that a few times together. Breathing in deeply from belly, ribs, upper chest, and then out with sound. And last one. Breathing in, lower belly, side ribs, top of the chest, and breathing out slowly with sound. Now I just invite you to let one thing come into your mind that you might like to change. Don't overthink it. It's just the first thing that comes into your mind. Usually better if it's just some small thing for now. And this is just for this exercise. You're not committing to anything. So just whatever comes into your mind. Now, assuming that it's a health-related habit, I'm going to ask you this question and just let it sink inside yourself. So just asking yourself inside yourself, why do you want your health? What do you envisage yourself doing with your optimal health? If you're visual, you can see if an image of the future emerges of what you're specifically doing, what you're doing, where and with whom, that might be actually bringing you joy. What can you see and hear and smell and touch and taste? And if you're not particularly visual, just see what words or just maybe feelings arise. And just sit with that question. Why do you want your health for a few moments? Okay, we'll take another deep breath in, belly, chest, ribs, and a long, slow breath out. And now let's go a little deeper. And firstly, tune into your body and specifically to your heart space. And you can put your hand on your heart if that feels comfortable to you and helps you to imagine that you're asking your heart this question. And so I'll ask you again and just let that go inside you and feel it and ask it of your heart. Why, deep in your heart, do you want your health? And just see what comes up, including any sensations in your body. And if any difficult thoughts and feelings come up with this, just invite you to do that compassionate hand exercise that we did last time. And for you, those of you who weren't here, it was just giving yourself that loving care and warmth and compassion through your hand, or even if your hand's not on your chest, imagining it's there, or on your forehead, or someone that you love and trust is giving you that compassion. Like you would for a child or a frightened puppy, just breathing slowly and being with those painful thoughts and feelings. But otherwise, just pausing for a moment and letting that question sink in deep. So, why, deep in your heart, do you want your health? Okay, now just slowly coming back when you're ready. You can wriggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes when you're ready. Coming back into the room that you're actually in, hearing the sounds either outside the room or inside the room or both. And you can write down now, if you'd like, anything that came up that you'd like to capture. So just give you a moment to do that. So using exercises like that, health coaches can help you to focus and augment what we call intrinsic motivation or internal motivation to help you build your momentum for change. Health coaches also support you through the inevitable ups and downs of this process of change and help you find a way around the practical and mindset challenges. So, this is the first step. Answering our why gives us meaning and purpose and starts developing this internal motivation. Intrinsic motivation is more powerful than starting a habit for an outside reason, which is what we call extrinsic motivation. So, for example, if your partner or an authority figure like your doctor or specialist or society in general telling us or demanding that we change, that's extrinsic. If we did that, that would be doing it with extrinsic motivation, external motivation. Also, motivation in itself waxes and wanes, so it's better to focus and cultivate the type of motivation that is more likely to be sustaining in the long term. It's also more powerful to focus on creating a new habit with a perspective that evokes a positive, energizing emotion rather than a fearful, I've got to do this or else kind of emotion. That's what we call a positive emotional retractor. So that focusing on that positive as an energizing state that's leading you towards your goal rather than that negative, fearful motivation. So we've covered the important first step of exploring your vision and thereby building your intrinsic or internal motivation for change. So now you can start to define your overarching goal. It might be what you want to work towards in the next 6 months or maybe to a year, for example. So a vague statement like, I want to be healthier, doesn't give you a clear direction towards which to steer your efforts. How would you know when you got there? Instead, you can use this SMART goal framework to think about and design your goal. There are many versions of this idea out there. The one that I like is influenced again by acceptance and commitment therapy. So it has values underpinning the whole thing. So in this model, S is for specific. So what are you actually aiming to do? Think about what I would actually see you doing on a video. M is for motivated by your values, as we talked about, as well as measurable. So again, how would we know when we got there if we couldn't measure it in some way? A stands for adaptive, meaning that the goal would actually improve your life, help you to live the life that you really want to live, as well as achievable or attainable. R is for realistic, and that refers to the fact that internal and external resources are available to you to work towards that goal or could be accessed. And T is for time bound. What time frame are you committing to? So this is particularly important to focus your efforts. So for example, your 6-month goal might be, for example, to be able to walk around the block at least once a week. And then you need to define a small, doable action step towards that goal. So that smaller action step might be to prepare for that by getting yourself a pair of comfortable runners. And then the next step towards it might be to walk to your front gate and back again at least once in the next week. And obviously that would be completely different for different people. And that's where, working specifically with someone, you would find the kind of goals that suited you and your lifestyle and where you are in your healing journey. So you can obviously devise these SMART goals by yourself, but research actually shows that change is more effective in relationship and even more so in a community like our healing community. So with someone or a group of people to help you hold yourself accountable and to keep you on track. So now, once you start embarking on implementing your action steps towards your bigger goal, then you actually need to be smarter. So it's helpful to add the E and the R to the SMART goal model that we just talked about. So E is for evaluate. How are the action steps that you're taking towards your goal actually working out? Are they moving you towards your goals or not? Are they really in alignment with your values? And R is for revise. It's important to be flexible and to adjust both your action steps and maybe even your overarching goal or goals rather than give up on them completely. So you need to tweak them and reassess. So overall, if goals are too easy, they won't be worthwhile achieving and won't give you the motivating satisfaction of achieving them. If goals are too hard, you might give up and think that the whole process of setting smart goals is worthless. Steps that can support this evaluate and revise process include sharing your goals with your friends and family, asking someone to help you to hold yourself accountable and help you evaluate and revise your goals, as we've been speaking about. And this might be a coach or a close friend. So, this particular mind shift change to us talking about keeping yourself accountable, not being accountable to your coach or your friend, it's actually also important to support that intrinsic or internal motivation. So you're not doing it for the other person who's helping you, they're just helping you to keep yourself accountable to what you want to achieve, to what you want to work towards. So also writing your goals down is important, especially if they're somewhere you can see them regularly. Research has shown that you're much more likely to achieve your goals by quite a big percentage if you write them down and regularly refer back to them and revise them where needed, as we've talked about. Tracking your progress regularly is also vital to keep you moving towards your goal and keeping you motivated. So to do this, you can use wearables, smartwatches, smartphone apps, spreadsheets on your computer, or just noting it down in your old school paper diary, or even drawing up a sheet of paper and putting it on your fridge and just ticking off when you've done what it is that you were intending to do. So I also have handouts of templates for goal setting that I can also email to you if you're interested. And I'll give you some details later as how to contact me. So this was the first part of a two-part series on this topic of starting a new habit. In the next session in next month, I will look more closely at how to create a small action step in line with a Stanford behavioral researcher's model called tiny habits. The researcher's name is BJ Fogg. And yeah, he's got a really interesting model that is really useful. And using those principles and his what he calls his recipes for devising tiny habits make it even more likely that you'll be successful in creating a new habit. So you could think about between now and then, you could, if you would like to be interested in coming to the next session, it's just a little teaser to see if you might come along to that one as well. Maybe think about one small doable thing that you'd like to change and bring it to the next session. It could be what you were just thinking about in the vision exercise we did, or it could be something different. So in summary of what we've talked about today in relation to starting a new habit, we talked about the importance of your why, your vision of why you want to change and the values that underpin that, your intrinsic or internal motivation as opposed to extrinsic or external motivation, which is doing something because an outside person says you should or demands that you change. And also finding your positive emotional attractor as opposed to a fear-based reason for change. So finding that uplifting, positive emotion that sort of fuels you towards your goal. We talked about SMART goals from the perspective of acceptance and commitment therapy, again, underpinned by your values, which just make it, much stronger. And then adding on the evaluate and revise to your SMART goals. And we also talked about the things that support the whole smarter process, like writing your goals down, tracking your progress, sharing your goals with a supportive friend or a coach or counselor to help you hold yourself accountable. And then we touched on devising these small action steps towards these overarching goals. And as I said, next time we'll talk specifically about designing those smaller action steps in in the light of the tiny habits model. So there's my contact details if you want to get any of those handouts that I mentioned. And I'll just stop the recording there so that we can just have an opportunity for any questions or chatting about what we were just talking about. So I'll just stop the recording.